my next guest is a guy that hasn't been fed a lot of fighters and hasn't been built up, spoon-fed, silver spoon in his mouth. He certainly hasn't had that. He's had to go on the road, and he's still had a bit of a sort of a toe here and a toe there, and he's a bit of a thorn in the side in some ways, because you know what, he gets the job done, and he's been in some fights where the decisions have been a little bit like that against big fighters. He is currently the British light welterweight champion. It's a delight to welcome to the studio Ashley Theophane. I'm fantastic. Is that a fair description of you, that you haven't had it easy? You haven't had a silver spoon at any point in your life, have you?
I would say that, but it's made me work hard for what I'm trying to do.
And you've achieved part of that. You're the British champion, and you've got world rankings, left, right, and centre. Where are you going next? What is happening next? When are you fighting next?
Well, you know, like Richard Poxon, he's working on a date for me. We are looking at the first week in April.
Would that be a British title defence?
Yeah, it'll be my last one to win the Lonsdale belt. So, like, you know, we're just...
This is a lovely piece of
it is.
jewellery.
I'm very proud to have it here tonight. So, yeah.
It is good. Now, one of the things, what I like about you, Ash, is that you're very aware of what's going on around the world in different weights. But I've got to admit, your weight at the moment, worldwide, it's got to be the maddest and craziest weight out there, hasn't it?
Well, I think it's exciting.
It's exciting, yeah.
Because you have all of these big names and everyone's like boxing each other. You got the Garcia and the Morales. You got the Alexander and like Maidana.
Madonna, sort of a... Yeah. Has that got eliminator status, I'm assuming?
Yeah, well, it's welterweight, but you know, it's attractive fights. It's attractive fight. So it's cool that it's happening.
And Tim Bradley, the sort of number one-ish, because I say ish because it's a bit up in the air as such. He looks like he'll fight Pacquiao. Do you know anything about that? Because I know you've still got contacts in America.
Well, I've heard
that's possible.
Well, I'm hearing that a four-man tournament, because they're looking at the Bradley and the Pacquiao, and they're saying Marquez and Peterson. Because Peterson may be signing with Top Rank.
Yeah,
that's kind of...
Because there was talk, because Marquez has definitely given up the lightweight title. We'll be getting Ricky Burns on the phone soon to talk about that. In all fairness, and there's been talk about Peterson fighting Marquez somewhere at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium.
Like the winner will fight the winner, and the losers like boxing each other as well. So it's attractive for boxing.
Yeah, it certainly is attractive for boxing. So what are you hearing? Because I know you've got the contacts in America. What do you hear about the? You know what I'm going to ask you now. Now let's make sure we don't say anything, so we end up in court, Ash, because I like you, but I don't want to sit with you in court whilst we're being sued. What do you hear about this whole Lamont Peterson, the mystery man in the hat, and the Amir Khan mystery chaos? What's your take on it, Ash?
Well, my take on it, I thought that Amir lost. I thought he didn't do himself any justice. Like with, you know, he kept, like, the referee's warning you. He's saying to don't push. You don't push. Yeah. He's continuing to do it. So I think the points were justified.
Even if it wasn't a nasty infringement, it was still an infringement.
It's putting the other guy off his game.
Because he can't do what he wants to do.
So I think the points were justified, but I think with that, the man in the hat being there, you have to give a rematch. So I do say I think that Khan lost, but I think because of that man there with the judges, he shouldn't be there.
He just appeared.
Yeah. So
now, did you ever bump into Mustafa Amin? Because he's the kind of guy that's been in lots of gyms. He shows up. He does show up all over. Freddie Roach threw him out of the American amateur boxing squad. Said he was a pain.
Yeah. Well,
did you ever bump into him by any chance?
I've never met him.
No. So this is what I've got to ask you, and I remember asking you this about a year or so ago when we came into my BBC London studio. It was about a year ago as well. Yeah. How do you get in with that mob? How do you add your name, okay, in your current form and with your backstory and your back history? How do you join that group of challengers, you know, and champions? How do you gate crash that scene, Ash?
Yeah, because you want to get amongst the elite boxers, because they're all like boxing each other. So basically, I have one more fight. I've beaten like Rodriguez, if it could have gone either way.
Yeah, of course.
I fought the Garcia guy, and he's fighting Morales next.
And that was a split.
I've shown that I can hang in the world-class group. So you know, it's just for Hatton Promotions to get one of them guys, be it a Kendall Holt, who's just lost an eliminator.
But at least you're getting in then against. Well, you know, I suppose
Holt or like a Merbuza would be good to get into that world bracket again. That's what it's all about, to fight a guy who's maybe fought for the world title, a ranked guy, and just like get back into the world scene.
Listen, I'm going to ask you now to tell the truth, because I know you're a very truthful kid.
Yeah.
Your last fight, okay, you got a late replacement come in. Ben Murphy. He fought out of his skin and was leading going into what ended up being the 11th round. I didn't think he was leading by as many points as we're told the judges had it, but he basically out-hustled you. What happened that night?
I just think styles make fights, and it was his World Cup, you know, because it was the biggest fight he is ever going to be in, and he just gave it his all, and he fought like a warrior, and but it just shows how good a boxer I am, because you know I rose above it and I stopped him. I went into the fight like thinking I could stop him, and I got the late stoppage. I left it late.
You did leave it late,
but I got it, and like me personally, I've watched it back, and I thought like going into the 11th round, I had it a draw. So
I sort of maybe had him 1 or 2, but I think 1 or 2 of the judges had it quite wide,
like
didn't they?
4 or 5.
Yeah, which I thought was
it's a bit wide.
A bit wide, hey. But listen, you know, hey, you've been in venues in America where there've been scores like that. Listen, Ashley's going to stay with me. We're going to have a quick break. When we come back, we will roll up to the end, and we're actually going to name. We're going to look at the fights that Ashley wants if he could just gaze into a crystal ball for the next year or so. Don't go away. See you in a second. I'm joined in the studio here by Ashley Theophane, the current British light welterweight champion, and a man who, just quite rightly and quite sensibly and quite justifiably, wants to join that light welterweight world championship roller coaster. Ashley, if you had your chance, where would you go? Who would you like to be involved with? The winner of Morales Garcia, the winner of potentially Lamont Peterson against Marquez, Bradley down the line, or even Amir Khan, who could end up fighting for the vacant WBA title?
Well, for me, like Peterson, would be a guy who I would like to fight. There's also Eric Morales, and then up at welterweight, like Victor Ortiz and Berto. So like those are fights that I would like into the next 2 years, if it happens or not.
And those, in theory, could be made. I mean, you sort of.
It could be made. Yeah, it could be made. I'm willing to travel.
And that whole welterweight thing, you've been down there before. You've had all sorts of title fights down there, or fights down there. Could you go back there comfortably, or would you go back there comfortably?
Yeah, I could go up to welterweight. That's where I want to go. I want to fight for a world title, fight fight the world's best at 140. But eventually, I'd like to go back up at welterweight and see
So it's not a big issue. And also at 31, you're fair. I know that you've had some long years in America and some things, lots of 12-round and distance fights in the middle there, win and loss. Good learning fights, but. You don't seem particularly old in boxing years. You don't look. I'm looking at your face. You don't look
still
too
looking
weary.
fresh.
You're still looking fresh. Don't start all that stuff. Why is it? Come on to me. Why is it every single time? Okay, gets in the studios. At some point, they always get to do that. I'm still looking fresh, because the rest of the sentence is, and you're not. Why is it? Why is it always happening to me?
I wouldn't say that.
No, thank you very much, Ash. No, but you are. You know what I mean. You're fresh. You're fresh in boxing.
I haven't been in a lot of hard fights, so there's hard fights out there. There's big fights. There's Maidana there, who's a big puncher. There's Alexander. So all of these guys say I'm willing to fight. Like there's Kendall Holt, who's on the comeback trail. So I just want to fight the world's best. See how good I can be. Just be the best I can be.
In the last 5 or 6 years, Ash, as you were in America and then you were sort of toying with coming back here, and you're fighting guys that went on to do things and are still doing things, Rodriguez and Garcia. Have there been fights offered to you that you've maybe thought about and not accepted because the money, let's not mince our words, the money was rubbish? Have there been any of those along the line?
Well, I did get offered a world title eliminator against Randall Bailey, but the money wasn't too good
compared to the risk. I mean, that's
exactly. It's a hard fight, so I want to be rewarded for it. And then I got offered a Peterson fight in April this year. It was a world title eliminator when Kyle dropped out, but it was a week's notice, and I wasn't near the weight or in the gym really. So
would you have taken that at 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
At 4 weeks' notice, I would have jumped at the fact, because I'm always in the gym. It's just my weight wasn't near there. I couldn't. There was no one who could make that weight. So that's why the fight got scrapped in the end.
Well, that must be really frustrating.
Yeah, so my name has been in the mix with them. It just hasn't happened as yet. But that's why I didn't have a promoter. It's the first time I've joined a promoter, and I've joined Hatton Promotions now. So
I mean, if you stay, if you're sticking with British, we've got this massive welterweight fight coming up, Matthew Hatton against Kell Brook. And when I say massive, we might have 12,000 people inside the Sheffield Arena. So that's big numbers. You know what I mean? And it's going to get a lot of attention because there's that Yorkshire and Lancashire. And Lancashire thing. a fight against the winner of that fight? Would that appeal to you, or have you got your eyes more on a global scene?
Yeah, like right now, because I've come back, because like to be real, I was world number 4 like when I got the call to fight Lenny Dawes. So I came back to Britain, I beat the British champion. I said I want to win the Lonsdale belt outright. So so right now I've spent like 12 months here, like be it like boxing, whoever it is. So I would like to go back and fight, be it amongst the world's best, like win, lose, I want to fight amongst.
You want to get back there?
I would like to fight stateside. Yeah, I would like to fight.
I mean, that could change if there was enough money on the table.
Yeah, of course. I just find it's just more exciting. Like for me, and like for a boxer, you want to be, you know, you just want to be in the big fights, like be it wherever it is.
Yeah, and that's understandable. So, any clues about who you're fighting in April? Give us, come on, give us something exclusive.
Clues.
Just give me a clue.
It could be Steve Williams. Okay. Could be like Woodhouse. You know, there's Lenny Dawes rematch. Alex Arthur, who's that,
the Arthur thing's good. That's sexy. That's
Alex Arthur,
that's quite high profile. I like that.
Yeah. So Alex Arthur would be my #1 choice. So Alex, if you want it.
And Steve Williams is good.
Like Steve, because Steve got a good win the last time out. He like knocked out Carl Place. And Lenny Dawes at the same time, he had like a contract rematch clause, but because of his personal thing, what happened with his child, like he couldn't take it. So I would like to give.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Ashley. I'm going to thank you for coming into the show and holding up the end, because you looked after me when we had a few calls. Ashley Theophane, the British Light Welterweight champion, and we'll get Alex Arthur on the show next week. It makes a lot of sense. I'll get him on the telephone. Now, it's been a good show tonight. We've got a massive series of fights of the weekend. We've had Ricky Burns on, Jules Chevallo on, Iran Barkley on, Tony DeMarco on, Tony Dodson on, Dean Powell, Steve Lillis on this weekend. What a series of fights. Join me on Boxnation every single night.